By the end of this video, you're going to know whether or not the First Descendant is worth your time. We're going to go over its gameplay, its story, and of course its microtransactions, since this is a free-to-play looter shooter. When the game begins, you're given a choice between one of 3 descendants, and this is a very important choice because you're locked into that descendant until you unlock another one. Unlocking your second descendant is a bit of a headache, but we'll talk about that later. Each descendant has their own kit of abilities that speaks to their playstyle. In the case of Bunny, she's a speedster who can move around the map very quickly, and she has some pretty high-powered attacks. And although there are a few different types of missions in the First Descendant, you're usually just going to be fighting enemies and fighting bosses. In this simplicity, there's almost nothing bad that you can say about the gameplay of the First Descendant. It's very gratifying to take on bosses with your friends or with strangers. It's very fun to just work through missions and gain experience points. That being said, there is a lot of complexity when it comes to making sure your character is fully equipped with all the right mods as well as all the right abilities. Because each weapon can take its own set of mods as well as your descendant. So you can make a really specific build with all of these different mods and abilities that you can swap in and out. So while you can play this game with your brain off, there is a fair bit of thinking to be done when it comes to all these things that you have to equip. Because it isn't as simple as just choosing the best stuff and moving on with your missions. And I personally wasn't a huge fan of this. I didn't really enjoy having to change all of my mods every single time I equipped a new gun, especially at the rate that this game gives you new stuff to equip. The more a game can keep me out of its menus, the better off I am. When it comes down to it, this is just a very simple third-person shooter. The characters do have their own abilities, but they're not terribly complex. And speaking of complexities, the story for the First Descendant is either extremely complex or not complex at all. I have not figured it out yet. The game throws so much disposition at you at the start. There's the descendants who are actually the ancestors who are now at war with the Colossi and also the Vulgus, and then there's this big gray Vulgus who's like kind of like Magneto but not really, and he's pretty evil. He's got lots of big aliens on his side and he kind of wants to take over the Earth, I think. Is this Earth? I'm not too sure. There's a lot going on in this game. It got to the point where I just started skipping cutscenes so I can get to the next mission, because not only was the story a little bloated, but it's also very hard to follow. That could be my bad.
Corel, do you truly plan on inverting the Ironheart data? If you do that, we won't be able to decipher the unidentified guide code.
That being said, one thing surprised me about the story in the First Descendant. It actually has nothing to do with the main story and everything to do with each character's story. After unlocking Bunny, I wound up stumbling upon one of her side stories that was specific to her, and it seems to explore her past, her parents, her grandmother, and how she came to be in Albion, which is the main area of the game.
If I follow the trail, I might be able to find a lead or two.
Speaking of unlocking Bunny, let's talk about microtransactions in the First Descendant, because there are a few. When it comes to a free-to-play game, I think it's really important to put most of the fun on the free side of the game. Things like cosmetics and major expansions should totally be behind a paywall, but the things that keep me playing the game should be free if you want me to stay in the ecosystem. Don't give me a reason to say, ugh, I don't want to spend money and now I'm not going to play this game. 99% of the cosmetics for characters in the game are all paid for content, which makes perfect sense to me. But if you wanted to change the color of the skins that you buy, those are also paid for content, and there's a lot of colors to choose from in this game. Something about having to buy each color just irked me a bit. There's so many colors in this game, and you can put them on your skins, and I get it, they change the way you look, but do you have to charge me for those as well as the major skins? Come on. But that's not even the worst of it. It gets really bad when we talk about unlocking new weapons and new characters. So if you wanted to unlock a new character, you'd have to go to the research center and see what collectibles you need to find to unlock them. So you go on the map, you find what collectibles you need to unlock the character you want to play as. While you're doing this, you're going to be passively collecting in-game gold, which is free. You just get that for playing the game. So when you go to cash in and get your new character and start playing the game with somebody different, you then realize you have to wait some time before you can play as that character. There's a research timer that triggers after you satisfy the in-game requirements, And if you wanted to skip that research timer, you have to pay real world money. And it's not just the characters, it's also when you want to unlock a new gun in the game. Now, obviously, this game throws a ton of guns your way, so you can try whatever gun you want, but they tell you to unlock this special gun because it's really good, and I went ahead and unlocked it. I got all the things I needed. I went to the research center, and then it told me I had to wait 4 hours to try out my new gun. I've only ever seen mobile games put something like this here, where you've got a timer that you can speed up with real money. I think Candy Crush had it, but to see it in a game that's on major consoles irked me to no end. But of course, you can unlock ultimate versions of the characters you can play as for a bunch of real world dollars if you want to play as them instantly without having to do the in-game work or wait for the research to happen. And in the case of Ultimate Bunny, I did the math and it was about $100 to unlock a version of Bunny with different abilities and a really skimpy outfit. So at the end of the day, you're either doing a ton of in-game work just to have to wait a bunch of hours, or you're spending a ton of real world dollars to get the thing that you wanted in the first place. And I totally get it. This is a free-to-play game, so they should charge you in any way that they need to charge you. So with all of that in mind, the First Descendant is pay to win. But having it be pay to win takes a lot of the fun of playing it out of it for me. Just knowing that I have the choice at any time to just throw some cash at a thing that I would be doing in the game kind of bums me out. I could just play the game as is and it would take me a lot longer to play as the different characters, but in my opinion, the most fun that the First Descendant has to offer is playing as all the different characters, because there's a bunch. I could also just be overthinking the whole microtransaction thing, because overthinking is why my YouTube channel exists. So how do you feel about the way the First Descendant works? Is the gameplay enough to keep you engaged, or are the microtransactions turning you away from playing this game at all? Definitely let me know in the comments, because I really want to know what you think of the microtransactions in this game. If you liked this video, make sure you like the video, and if you really like this video and you want to see more of this, then make sure you subscribe to my channel. And thank you for letting me talk your ear off about the First Descendant.